Happy Monday, everybody.
All right, happy Monday. So we're really excited. We've had to put this topic off for several weeks because something kept coming up, Palooza, and then everyone had recaps. We had all the things happening last week. So we've been kind of like chomping at the bit to go over what we're going to go over. It was actually hit on a little bit this morning, the Think Like a Monk book. I'm going to cover a couple of few things there, but Rachel is also going to talk about, what was it, vibrating? What's the name of the book?
Vibrating Higher Daily.
Vibrating Higher Daily. And it has a very similar theme. She had sent me some notes and I actually printed them off because some of the things that were in her notes like related back to the Think Like a Monk book. So I was reviewing some of that earlier today. I'm going to let her kind of start us off simply because what we're going to talk about this week and next week are kind of going to tie together. If you have the book Magnetic Sponsoring, if you already have it in your possession, review it this week up until next Monday, because we're going to cover a couple of things. It's about the alpha beta mentality, but we're going to cover more so about the mind. I read it already. Yes, Whitney, it's an amazing book. I think I literally read it in one sitting. Like I could not stop reading. Same with the Think Like a Monk. I always get the workbook. I think Alicia does that. And I've got hooked on always getting the workbooks because there's like activities. So if I'm actively working and taking notes, it just helps me retain more. And then I learn more every time I go back to it. So I recommend getting the workbooks always if it's an option, if you're more of a hands-on person. And so I'm going to let her lead into this because I want her to go over some of her notes from this book. I've not got this book yet, but she keeps talking about it, so I'm probably going to get it. And then what we talk about tonight will also lead into is vibrating higher daily. And then the Think Like a Monk is one that Jessie Lee recommended a while back. Courtney's talked about it a bajillion times, and then we even talked about it this morning. So on our team Zoom. So I will pass it off to Rachel.
Hello, everybody. So I was actually on Instagram probably maybe about a month ago. I don't know. With Palooza, my time frame has gotten all jumbled. I don't know how many people feel that. It's literally the 10th of May, and I'm still a little off. However, I saw a video actually. I was going through Instagram, taking off some celebrities, and I saw Jada Pinkett Smith had interviewed a woman by the name of Lila Delia, and she was talking about her concepts on vibrating higher daily. And it just honestly caught my eye because one thing she says in here is that it really just feels like me and my personal story, which I'm not really going to go into today. But she said, where is it? Sorry, I should have wrote this down. I had it in my brain and then it went poof. She remembered who she was and the game changed. That's what it was. She remembered who she was and the game changed. So, sorry, admitting someone. So, she has kind of a similar story than me, to me, the author of Vibrate Higher Daily, and she talks a little bit about how she kind of changed her life from one of just a really negative space. And when she says vibrate, she really just means like her energy, the energy that she exhibits in her space, in her life, in the world. And she has the kind of 7 steps that she gives us on how to love yourself through any state. So this woman had also been through, kind of like me, had been through some domestic violence and a lot of negative stuff in her life. And, I think a lot of times when people go through something that they view as traumatic, those circumstances I've seen can either make or break people. And I have definitely at times in my past have felt very broken, but those were the defining moments that really helped me form who I am today. And I actually, even though I'm not happy I went through certain things, I'm actually very proud of the things that I've learned from all of the things I've been through in my life. I don't like to have regret. I like to simply learn and move forward. And it's just a way and a space that I've been in for at least about 7 or 8 years now. So I'm going to get into these 7 steps on how to love yourself through any state that she talks about in her book. If anybody wants to write it down, I can slow down or ask me to repeat. So, number one, she says that you really need to identify your personal patterns. Through your self awareness, you need to figure out what makes you vibrate higher in your day. And what she means by that is what foods help you vibrate higher? What music helps you vibrate higher? What in your space helps you be a healthy, happier you in everything that you do? So, number one is really just to identify those patterns of things that really create a better environment for you as a human versus more negative space. So if you know that waking up and taking your 3 steps puts you in a vibrating higher mood today, obviously all of us are going to wake up and take our 3 steps because we know that's going to help us vibrate higher today. Um, so I really think that looking at our patterns and being more self-aware is really the key. I've seen a lot of different like nutritional programs, and I forget the name of like one of the top ones, but they talk about how to change your habits to like meet your goal. Instead of like focusing on a diet, it's really changing your habits around your feelings. And there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power around figuring out what your habit patterns are and kind of altering them. So, step number 2 is journey in grace. Allow yourself the room to feel even the negative things. You'll see others with less judgment. You're going to have to love yourself through all of it. Um, when you give yourself the space to fail and you don't make yourself wrong and beat yourself up over it, you really just set yourself up for success. One of the things that I've said before, and I say to my kids often, is when they make a mistake and they're really beating themselves up about it, I say, you are a human being. Congratulations. You're not a dog and you're not an animal. Human beings we fail all the time. We make mistakes. That's part of being a human being, is learning to adapt and grow in areas of mistakes. And you have to learn to just give yourself a little bit of grace, because stressing out about it is going to make no positive difference. Years ago, I would run late everywhere I went, and I had so much anxiety around it. And I beat myself up so much about it that I actually I put myself into the hospital a few times. My blood pressure was through the roof. It was extremely unhealthy. And somebody said something to me and it just kind of blew it out of the water. You can be late and be in a good mood, or you can be late and you can be in the hospital. So it's something as simple as just shifting your mindset and just giving yourself the grace that, you know what, we're late today. Oh, well, at least I'm going to show up with a smile when I'm late and not show up frustrated when I'm late. I think that's a big one, because I think we all tend to really be very um, we give ourselves a really hard time when we don't show up the way we want. Number 3 is to love yourself through it. Don't rush the journey. Surrender the internal fight that you have. Allow yourself time to find the correct path, then move forward. So, number 3 was love yourself through it. You really need to give yourself time to find the right path. Part of being successful is failing a lot to find success. How hungry are you to get there? If you're too hungry and too eager, you can actually make kind of a problem for yourself. You ever see people who are like, they're so hungry that they turn everybody off because they're like, gotta do it now, gotta do it now, gotta do it now, gotta do it. And it's like everybody is like this. Nobody wants to deal with you when you're in a space of rush, rush, rush. I would say to you, and I would say this to myself, your problem is not my emergency. Your rush is not my priority. So give yourself some space and some time and really learn to love yourself through the process. And when you fail, not only give yourself the grace, but learn how to love yourself when you fail, because there's so many times I look back now in like my all of my 20s and I'm like, man, I really wish I would have loved myself when I failed more. I really wish I would have given myself more grace, because it was absolutely pointless beating myself up. It caused nothing but negative mind space and just more turmoil and just a longer fight. So giving up that internal fight and really learning to just be in the space that you're in, know you're in the right space, and as long as you're moving forward. What's the first two? So number one was identifying your patterns. Number two, journey in grace. Journey in grace, giving yourself grace to feel negative and not judging yourself, but also don't sit in it for too long. Um, and number three, love yourself through it, not to rush the journey. Number four, set healthy boundaries. This is a huge one. I think everybody needs to learn how to set healthy boundaries. This is something that I'm still working on in my personal life. I think it's going to be a lifelong thing I'm working on. I think I'm going to say that at 50. Um, I, for me, it's a game changer, setting healthy boundaries. My husband came into my life and he was like, "You're letting people take advantage of you." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just helping them." He goes, "They're using you." And what was that statement I heard today? Stop lighting, stop, what was it? Something about fire. Stop burning your fire to keep others warm. It's something like that. So, um, setting healthy boundaries can be a game changer because you create the right environment that is correct for you as a human being. Learn to learn what your boundaries are, your habit patterns. You know, if you're on the phone with someone and they are just annoying you and you just are not with it right now, then learn to say, hey, you know what? Right now is not really a good time for me. Can we talk later? Learn to put up those boundaries. If you have kids, a spouse, anyone, this could be personal, this could be professional, on any level, those boundaries will really make a difference. You have to know where your boundaries lie. So I really strongly suggest sitting down and getting raw and real with yourself and figuring out where those boundaries are for you. Number five, have self reverence. This is, I think a lot of these are big ones. Teach other people how to treat you by how you treat you. So, one thing I wrote down is I'm a temple and I want to teach other people how to treat me like a temple. That's just something I wrote down as my note. And it's, you know, I noticed this in parenting. You ever notice that somebody who screams at their kids, their friends are more likely to scream at their kids? Or when you, and I think I brought this up once before, when you see like somebody having a kid's birthday party and their kids look like they're going to have like, you just see the invite, you're like, they're going to have the best birthday. And you're like, how come their party looks so much more special than my child's party? It's because of the space that they create around that event or themselves. It's the importance that they exonerate themselves in. They show up in the world as an important person. And when they show up important, people treat them important. So you really have to have that self reverence, that self respect, and you have to teach other people how to treat you. If you haven't been treating yourself with respect and you haven't been holding boundaries, when you change that aspect of your life, just know that there's bound to be some explosive activity around you. People do not inherently like to change. People are comfortable in the way that they're currently in, and they do not want to change for your needs. So I think it's just a practice of learning how to be respectful, respect yourself, setting boundaries, and just treating other people with the respect that you also want to be treated with. Like they say when you're little, treat others the way you want to be treated, but also treat yourself the way you want people to treat you. Number six, ask for help, support, or seek therapy. So basically, in a nutshell, ask for help. I used to hate asking for help. I was would not like to admit that I needed help. I was like, nope. If someone asked me to help me carry groceries when I was a single mom, I would have $300 in groceries, down 4 blocks, up 2 flights of stairs, and through 2 doors with 2 toddlers. And I did not need anyone's help. Silly, silly, silly me. Learn to ask for help. It will help you vibrate higher, and it will help you grow relationships with others. When you ask for help, you also learn to respect yourself more. You can't carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. And one thing I like to say that isn't from the book, but something that has really been on my mind lately is when you're in a negative space, don't go in your head alone. It is a scary place in there. If you are feeling like not okay, then do not go in there alone. Do not venture in there. Go distract yourself with anything else. Go do anything else, like literally anything, until you can ask for the help that you need and someone to bounce thoughts and ideas. Sometimes we just need like a listening board, somebody to just bounce our own thoughts and ideas. And it really helps us to be in a better space because we're not going in there alone. So ask for help, ask for support in business. If you need help, if you see somebody doing something that you don't understand, ask for help. Ask for help. Ask, hey, what are you doing? I've heard that several times, and I think that's a really big deal. If you see somebody making pictures and you don't know how to make the ask. I mean, just asking when you need help, if you need help in your house, if you just finding resources, it does not make us weak. I think sometimes we think that we're not good enough because we can't do it all. And I know that there are men on our team, and I know that there's a lot of women on our team. And I think even for both, sometimes we feel like we have the weight on our shoulders and we have to do every single thing in the world. Learning to ask for help is so freeing. It is like a breath of fresh air. It is like the beautiful thing you didn't know you needed sometimes. And it's so nice to be able to allow people to help you when you need help. Number 7, environmental awareness. Is your space helping you thrive? Does it help you decompress? This is a pretty big deal for me. Environmental awareness. So I have 4 children, 2 of which are on the autism spectrum. What if you ask for help and you don't get help? Then you're not asking the right person and you're not getting help from the right place. But you can message me later about that, Emily. So, environmental awareness, back to that. Is your space helping you thrive? So, one thing that really, my husband's deployed, I have 4 kids. And I mean, even if your husband's not deployed, even if he's sitting on the couch, even if your kids are next to you, and we all love our family, we want to spend time with them. But my kids are very, very loud. So, my environment of being loud 24/7 does not help me thrive, decompress, and vibrate higher. So, what does? So, I decided to really look at my habit patterns, and I figured out by putting in AirPods, putting on something, and just having them be the noise in the background sometimes is all that I need. Like putting on a podcast, putting on an Audible book, putting in music, church music in the house, having something positive in your environment that wasn't there, an external factor coming in, sometimes is all you need to shift where you're at. Those are the 7 steps on how to love yourself through any state. And I really think that this ties into next week because we really have to learn when we want to be in the world with people and we want to connect with others, we must first learn to connect with ourselves. If you cannot connect with yourself and you can't be alone and just vibe with you, then there is some internal work that you need to do. I'm just gonna let that sit for like 2 seconds. There's definitely some internal work that you need to do if you don't sit with yourself and you are not comfortable in your own skin. This is one thing that I don't think I could ever say enough is you need to learn to love yourself just the way that you are. You are like magnificently and wonderfully created. You are perfectly who you are supposed to be. When you find out who you are and you figure out how you can vibrate and you have the positive, like better energy in the world and what makes you a better you, and you create that in your life, that will fuel you into being in the world with other people. So I think Chris is going to go into her notes on Think Like a Monk, and I'm excited to hear it.
Yes, and these flow just perfectly. I'm actually glad that things came up and had us kind of hinder and come together on this one instead of separating it, because they flow pretty well. And the Think Like a Monk is really how to get yourself into that space. I don't think like a monk. Technically, I'm of a different faith. However, don't let that stop you from getting this book, because I almost didn't get it because I was like, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want that kind of vibes in my life. Is it going to bring something that's not what I believe? But it's totally not like that. It's more just in your mind. They just operate a lot differently than most humans do. And so it's been very interesting to study, and I've read it and read it and read it and read it. The part I want to hit on is it's titled Location Has Energy and Time Has Memory. And it's all hitting on that environmental awareness that she was speaking about. A lot of us have hit on this point before, and I know for myself, this is probably like the fourth time that I've attempted this. It says, even when many wake up early, instead of getting ready for the new day, we habitually, what do? We pick up our cell phones every single morning and we go to the chats, we get on Facebook, we get on Instagram, and guess what's usually happening? Usually not positive things. It's usually people spitting negativity, people complaining, oh my goodness, I got up in the worst mood, the kids were terrible, blah, blah, blah. Or there's a problem in the chats that you feel like have to be addressed at that very moment. And it just puts you in that horrible mental space first thing in the morning. Says that's a very bad habit. It's like calling in 100 chatterbox strangers into your bedroom when you're not even ready. You haven't even taken a bath. You've not brushed your teeth. You've not even got your clothes ready for the day. So before you've ever even prepped yourself, you're taking on all those other people's problems. And I know we've talked about it. I know this is probably the fourth time I've attempted to do this and I fail every single time, but you guess what? I'm going to keep trying it because one day it's going to click and I'm going to set that new routine. I'll do great. It's just like any habit. You'll do good for 3 or 4 days and then one day you just screw it and you got to start over. So it says early to rise. These are just a couple of tips on how to get yourself into that proper atmosphere, because the atmosphere that you're in, the atmosphere that your mind is in really makes all the difference. It doesn't matter. Sometimes you can spread all the positivity you want, but if you wake up and let that one toxic thing in, it can literally spiral you out of control. So make time, it says TIME, part of your daily morning routine. This is something that I'm trying to do, is have a morning routine and have a nighttime routine to get myself ready for the day, and then at night to get myself ready for the next day. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm one of those people that I want to be that rock star mom that gets everything ready the night before, but I'm not good at it. So guess what happens in the morning? I'm that person that's spewing negativity, like the kid's not dressed, the kid's not brushed her teeth, she's not 8 and all the things. So I'm trying to set up better routines. Get yourself routines, because it doesn't have to be the same boring thing all the time. You do not have to bore yourself to death, but we thrive on routines. What do they say about kids and children? They do better with a set schedule and a set routine because they like things to be predictable. Thanksgiving, gratitude to someone or something. So whether that means praying, whether that means maybe you need to call your mom or call your Atomic Habits, exactly. Call up a friend, text a friend, just tell them something you're thankful for that morning to get yourself in that grateful mindset. We talked about being having gratitude this morning on mantras, and I love that because your affirmations and your just few minutes of gratitude can literally make all the difference. Insightfulness. So read a journal or listen to a podcast. That's what I've been trying to do in the mornings while I'm getting ready, whether it's worship music, whether it's a podcast, or if I just sit down for a few minutes and read a few pages. Next is meditate. That's the M. Spend ample time just breathing, visualizing, or chanting into your day, whatever meditating looks like for you. For me, that's usually going out and sitting on the porch. And I do this a lot. If I get stressed or I have just a moment where I feel like I'm going 90 to nothing and really nothing's getting accomplished, I just go sit on my porch. My neighbors, they walk. We have a pretty nifty little neighborhood where people walk. They probably think I'm dead on my porch because I will go out there and just lay flat on my porch, sometimes in the grass, but here lately it's been raining a lot. So I just go and lay on my porch just flat because I just want to be outside where it's peaceful. Exercise, you can either do yoga or easy stretches or work out or just go walk. I'll just walk to my mailbox and back a few times just to get that fresh air and just to get my body moving, because that your body is going to release those good happy feelings. What podcast is good to listen to on my way to work? It kind of depends on what you're going for. Most of the podcasts I listen to are Jessie Lee. I listen to Courtney's The Decoded Project. Courtney Glaser has one called The Sober Show. It's pretty good. I'm actually behind on hers. I haven't been listening to them. You can listen to the Thrive Army podcast. You can listen to John Maxwell podcasts. Jessie Lee and The Decoded Project by Courtney are probably my two favorites. And then I have a couple of Christian bloggers that I listen to. So as important as the morning routine is, the nighttime is also vital. So before you go to bed, I know they sound so just not important, but they are. I promise they will make a difference. I can tell a big difference just in the last week or so that I've tried to really hone in and implement these. So make a mental note of the things you want to do when you wake up the next day. Make an extra effort to just write it down. I get a lot of gratification having a note and just crossing things off, or having like a separate sticky note for each task and just tearing it off the wall. I get so much joy because it makes you feel accomplished. Prepare what you're going to wear the next day. That's something that I've never really done before. I can do great with my kid, but for some reason, I just don't do it for myself. So I've been doing that, and it makes the mornings go so much smoother. Yes, setting a nighttime routine the night routine has probably actually benefited me more than the morning. Because just sometimes mornings are rough. Even with your 3 steps, sometimes there's not enough help in the mornings. The idea is to remove challenges from your path so the next day is free to make more important decisions. That's probably why the nighttime routines are so much more important, because that way you're not having to rush. You're not having to think about those things that you already did the night before. You set yourself up for success before you even woke up. Program your thoughts to be positive before going to bed at night. This way you're not waking up with negative vibes, so you're not going to bed angry, sad, or depressed. Be hopeful. I usually shower at night, so I always listen to a podcast while I'm in the shower. That gets my mind kind of ready for bed, just because us as women, there's probably some guys on here, but women have like 98 tracks in their mind, and it is impossible to shut them off when it's bedtime. So I have found that if I can listen to a podcast and get my thoughts not there, I'm totally honing in on that podcast while I'm in the shower, it helps me go to sleep easier. The nights that I don't do that, I cannot go to sleep because I'm thinking about the 400 things I need to do before I go to bed when I get up. So just kind of clearing that out with something else, someone else speaking into me, has been really helpful. So preparation, it makes your day intentional and more purposeful. I listen to sleep stories. Hey, I never thought about that. A lot of people will. I listen to my kids' sound machine. That's probably another reason that it helps. Reading before bed, start with prayer, talk to Jesus. Yes, I always start my day with prayer. So routines help keep us grounded. It gives us a designated time for those prayers, leisure, work, etc. As we do our routine, let's intentionally take note of the things around us to keep our brain from entering dormancy. That's what a lot of people fear with routines, is they think, well, if I'm doing the same thing over and over, like I'm going to get bored, I'm going to get tired. Then swap it up. If you need to take a walk one day, then you need to do yoga the next day. Maybe call up a friend and go to the gym. Go for a walk with a friend. Go do something different. You don't have to do the same exact things every single day. It's not about the retention, but the attention. That's the big problem. And that's always been the problem for me. It's not that I don't get the things done, but I'm not being attentive to the things. Atomic Habits, that's one that I actually have the book in my cart. I've just not pressed order yet because my cart's not big enough yet. I wait till it fills up and then I put press in. But it's never the retention part. It's never that I can't stick to it. It's more or less I can't pay complete attention to it because I don't make a point to. So then the retention is where it gets me. So location has energy and time has a memory. It has a couple of lessons to break that down. And this was something that really got me thinking towards what Rachel was discussing. Number one, quenching your external distractions can pave way for silencing greater distractions that reside in your heads. So you're quieting all the noise from the external. So don't check your phone first thing in the morning. Go do something to fill your cup, or stop worrying about everybody else. Those customers, those chats, they can wait. Like, more than likely, nobody's dying. Now, if somebody called you, there's something bad happening, take care of that. Your team will be okay for a few hours. Your team will be okay if you need to go do something for yourself, take care of your family, pour into those that are closest to you. That way, you're energized and you're ready to then help those around you. Routine aids productivity. It doesn't have to be boring or repetitive. Doing the same activity at the same time and location allows for creativity. I'm going to touch on that here in just a second. Single tasking keeps our brain focused on one thing per time. We as women like to multitask. It is one of our greatest strengths, but also our greatest weaknesses, because we're not being 100%. And that's one of my flaws. Earlier in the book, it asks you to kind of divulge into your flaws. What are some things that you really want to work on? And mine is being a perfectionist, because even though I'm really good at multitasking, what am I not really good at? Doing every task to perfection. So then I'm having to go back and redo, or I'm upset and I'm frustrated. So I'm working really, really hard on it. If I'm zoned in on this one task, I'm not paying attention to something else. If I'm trying to cook dinner or I'm trying to do the dishes, I put my phone somewhere else. I'm always attacked with this stuff, because what happens the moment that phone dings, I'm like, oh my goodness, it might be a customer, it might be something really important. So then I get on my phone and I don't get that done, or I'm hurrying through it and it's not done the way I want it to be. So focusing, single task. The same technique should be applicable in the carrying out of your single task to build a skill. If you're trying to build a skill, you're trying to learn something new, you're trying to get better at something, you can't do that if you're doing 4 things at one time. You're going to forget. How many of us are listening to a podcast that we're trying to learn, but then we're also reading a book and we got the TV on and we're on our phone and we're taking notes and we're drinking and we're eating all at the same time. And then we didn't even learn anything. I'm the world's worst at that. So what do I have to do? Why do I have to read this book 7 times? Because I'm probably not single tasking. I'm reading the book and I'm answering questions. I'm watching the kid. I'm eating dinner. I'm feeding her dinner. The dog is beside me. Single tasking is so important. Don't get so distracted. Try to focus on one thing. The last point is, there's beauty in routine when you walk through the same path and you discover a new stone. It's a sign that you now have an open mind. So in the routines, find new ways to appreciate the outcome. So that goes back to the routines and productivity. You're going to be trudging that same path, but you're probably going to notice something new each and every time. That's why I come back to this book so many times. That's why I listen to the same podcast sometimes over and over. If I hear one that's really good, especially if I'm in the shower trying to just, oh, here's the kid. If I'm trying to just relax, but maybe I didn't hear a key point, I go listen to it, because guess what? It's like I heard it all over again, like the first time all over again, because I pick up something new. That's why studying the same things. I know sometimes these mindset Zooms probably seem repetitive. Why? Because one day it's going to click with you guys and you're going to be like, man, y'all are geniuses. And we're going to be like, yeah, we said that 3 Zooms ago.
I love that. I just wanted to say, like, I think what we're going for is trying to come up with like a step-by-step process of how can we make our lives better, easier, happier, more energized. And, when Krista was talking about um, like having those habits, changing those habits, that really did tie into, which is why we are so happy that like we kind of got delayed and this kind of came up on the same day, because having those habits will help you like have a better you will vibrate, you'll be happier. If you're having trouble sleeping and you, like she was talking about, have all this stuff on your mind for the morning and you're already stressed before you've even fallen asleep, that is not putting you in a good position. So always thinking about those patterns and changing them. So first, I think is to just be mindful and taking steps and knowing that it's going to take time to do these things. And like Krista was saying, over and over and over again, it is a practice creating new habit patterns. You're creating new brain, like neuron connections. It takes repetitiveness to do it. And being in a positive space, creating a better circumstance that you can feel like a better you in. And then when you can feel great with you, that's how we want to set everybody up to going next week into, what is it, magnetic sponsoring, right? Yeah, to really talk about magnetism. But first, you really have to like you. She's got the book there. Magnetic sponsoring. We don't expect everyone to grab that book off Amazon and read it by next Monday. We will go through it though. Feel free to grab it. I think it's really important for us to really learn how to be more self-aware of what we like and dislike. I think sometimes we get so caught up in like the daily grind, we forget that we actually have a choice. We put ourselves in this tiny little box, this narrow box of like thoughts and ideas. And sometimes we just forget that we have opportunity. Don't make yourself small. You need to think a lot bigger and to be creative and to think about what your patterns are and how can you adjust your schedule and your time blocking and your habit patterns. How can you adjust that you like it the best? And I think it's going to take time. What food is the best for you? What are the best people to talk to? What's the best morning routine? What's the best night routine? What's the best way to post? These are all trial and error things, and giving yourself grace through all that, and just, like thinking like a monk, just being okay with who you are as a human is so vital to you shining in the world and being a person that wants to magnetically bring people in, because you have to be okay through those times. So sorry, I totally cut you off, Krista.
No, you're fine. And just like she said, you don't have to, if you have this book, go back and review a few key points, take some notes, because we want you to all kind of be in the same headspace as us. And the reason we're doing this is we're getting a lot of, well, I can't recruit people. I'm not recruiting the right people. We've been talking about a lot of this on our leadership Zooms. Why are we having all the same problems? Why are the problems we're having, why are they not getting better? Why do they seem to be getting worse? Why is it every time we try to take a step forward, we're knocked 10 steps back? Because sometimes you're attracting what you're ready for, and you may not be ready. I know I've spoke specifically about this on a mindset before. You're attracting what you're ready for, and you may not be ready for that unicorn. You may not be putting out into the universe that you need a unicorn yet, that you're ready for that unicorn. So we kind of want to work on getting our heads right first, getting ourselves right. Just like she said, it's not sometimes that they need the work, we need the work. And I try to really reflect internally every single day, because I can see a situation or see a problem and I'm like, oh, I'm just so frustrated, but I need to fix me first. Because if I'm not in the right headspace, if I'm not loving myself, there is no possible way for me to put that off and to love someone else if I don't love me. And so I'm not going to attract people. They can tell. People can tell when what you're putting out there is it's totally different than what you really are. Actions speak so much louder than words. You can sit there and write up a beautiful post and have beautifully post pictures and say that your life is so grand. But when they get in your messenger or they see how you really treat people, they know that's a big red flag. And that also turns them off to MLMs. It turns them off to our whole team. It turns them off to everything. So we really need to make sure we're working on ourselves, make sure we're getting and attracting the right things by being the right thing. It's just so important, and it's so valuable to always be developing ourselves. Whether when Courtney talks about a book, you best believe it goes in my cart every single time. I'll never get all these books read, but I know she's doing it to help me. I know she's doing it to help develop me. Maybe not even in my business. We hope that it does help me in my business, but I want it to help me as a person so that I can pass that on to other people, because I have to be training new people. I can't do it by myself forever. I'm going to have to be instilling that in other people to come on after me to help, and then they can help others. So whenever Courtney talks about a book, and if you're not a reader, that's cool, get the audio version. You don't have to get the book. I like paper and I like to highlight and I like to take notes. That's why I order the books. But just about once a month or every 2 weeks, my cart is full and I get 5 or 6 books at a time, because she names 5 or 6 at a time every single day. But that's besides the point. Go get the things she's talking about. If you can't afford it, like, ask someone which workbook. I got the Jay Shetty Think Like a Monk. I did. Courtney, why are you laughing? Why are you even on here? Because you're going to think of another book to tell us. And at the back of the John Maxwell books, it tells you like 12 other books to order. But yes, get the books. The Think Like a Monk is the workbook. I love the workbooks just because, like I said, I can write in them. But if she tells us a book, go get it. If you can't afford it, like, there's a lot of them. And sure, my husband's going to kill me. But it's a write-off. It's a tax write-off, let me tell you. So get the books. And if you can't afford them, like I was saying, like, ask somebody. There's probably someone around you that you can borrow it, or they can mail it to you. You can, let's rotate it around the teams, whatever. Now, I wouldn't advise that on the work, because I'm real raw in some of my workbooks, but I don't care to let you like borrow my books if you need them. So Rachel, do you have anything to close?
One other thing I would like to recommend for anyone that's not, like, if you know that you just are not a book person, you're just not going to buy this book. Because I know there are people who are just like, oh, that sounds great for you. Good luck with that. Okay. So for all, and this is really open for anybody who is like not going to buy the book, or is just not really, that's just not jiving with them. I want to strongly recommend that you look at your week until we meet next Monday for our next mindset. I want to strongly recommend that, like, your homework be to write down, like, look at your life and start really looking at areas where you notice that you're having a problem in. Where are you not like feeling great? What are you not feeling great about? Is it your eating patterns? Is it the time you eat dinner? Is it the time that you put in for RCMing? Is it what, just any, it could be any area in your life. I want you guys to write down some of the areas and then really go after some of those, make adjustments, trial and error. And I would love next Monday when we meet back up to see what are some areas of adjustments in your schedule, in your day, just in your life, on different patterns that you notice that by making those adjustments, you really felt like you could vibrate higher, you could feel happier with that choice. So I want to make sure that we really get everybody, not just the people who are going to read the book. And honestly, I think some people, especially when I got here, I was like, that many books? I got to read. How many books do I got to read? You don't have to read this many books, but one thing that I did here, and I was listening to some videos from, what is it, Mike Dillard today. He's a millionaire and he writes several books, but he was talking about how reading that many books and that self-development really helps him to just be better him. One thing that he said that really stuck out to me today was, when people want to be like an entrepreneur, they're like, oh, let me take my whole life savings and let me throw it into the biggest possible like venture I possibly could, like right off the bat. And then if that baby fails, which if it's your first one, you're more than likely, I don't know, it's not going to be like, the statistics I'm sure are lower. He said you need to start on a smaller scale and be successful on a smaller scale before you take those giant leaps, so that you can really be in a space of creating a better circumstance, like less risk involved. So I really wanted to encourage everyone to just look at their life and the little things, the silly little things that like you think are just silly, like like for me, it's laying the kids' clothes out, their lunch boxes, like she was talking about getting everybody prepared for the next day. Sometimes it's not preparing too much, because with my house, sometimes if I over prepare, then kids will mess it up and then that'll cause a problem. So I've had to really learn like a happy medium. Yeah. So I've really had to figure out what works best for me in my life with my family, with the set of circumstances I have. which is why it will be different for everybody. But I cannot wait to see or hear about the minor adjustments you guys make. And remember, it can be anything. It can be in your thought patterns, your eating patterns, the way you communicate. Um, it can really be in anything. So I really would love to hear that next Monday. I'm going to ask. But I think that's it. Next week.